live via the internet. Welcome to ISP Radio, your weekly source for ISP-related news, events, and interviews with industry experts. If you deliver internet via fiber optic, wireless, coax, or any other way, you're in the right place. Chat live with us weekly via ispradio.com every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. And now a brief word from our sponsors. Link Technologies, providing ISP consulting, support, and hardware for wireless ISPs. TowerCoverage.com, providing online RF coverage maps. Mimosa Networks, providing high-density, high-bandwidth radio products. Advanced LLC, providing retail and wholesale advanced communication services by matching providers with your bandwidth needs. And by Sitel, providing reliability in surge suppression. And now your host for ISP Radio, Steve Grabiel and Dennis Burgess.
Welcome to another edition of ISP Radio. I'm your host, Steve Grabiel, with co-host and producer Dennis Burgess. Today we have a very exciting show, pretty much a recap of WISP America in St. Louis, Missouri. And it's going to be action-packed. We've got Alex Phillips with High Speed Links. He's the committee chair for the FCC with WISPA, and he's also the vice president of WISPA. He's on the show today as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dennis. Dennis is pretty much your show since you were there and you and Alex were there. You can talk about all things WISP America and lead us into some news. We had some bad news on Thursday, but we'll talk about that during the show. So go for it, Dennis.
Yeah. So we have quite a few things that occurred at WISP America. Right here in St. Louis was, to me, was just an absolutely great show. I know lots of people enjoyed it, and overall I don't think there could have been a better show out there. So definitely props to everybody who participated, who engaged in the show, helped out, etc. So kind of start up here with the FCC Commissioner O'Reilly. He appeared last week at WISP America here in St. Louis. He had a great speech, including remarks like there are numerous small ISPs that will be caught in this Title II trap. Such regulation will create unnecessary burdens and costs for small providers, including WISP, small cable providers, and municipal broadband providers, as well as others. He also mentioned that this is the golden age of Wi-Fi, so hopefully it all works out with the Title II and net neutrality. However, of course, the FCC voted Thursday of last week to reclassify internet services as a Title II utility under the Communications Act of 1934. And as we expected, it passed. Already we have seen filings, promotions, and other comments on this vote in Title II, such as taking us back to 1934 regulation was one of the ones from a fairly large provider, and one of my favorites here, the end of the golden age of internet, at least in the U.S. One of the ones I'm most fond of is a little image that's going around on Facebook that says, so the same administration that can't even build a website just took over the internet. Obviously, we have lots of things going on with Title II. I will tell you right now that the original Title II was something like 332 pages, I think, or 334 pages, and that's already been reduced. Since they have voted, they have already dropped it to, I think it's like 317. So already editorial changes are already in the works, and it still has not been released to the public. Lawsuits are already being prepared. Legislative action in Congress are already being thought up to overturn the FCC ruling. In reality, the only one that's going to win in this whole process is most likely the lawyers. We're going to see probably a decade's worth of inevitable litigation. That just gives lawyers job security. But until we see the white of the dots and the I's and the crosses and the T's in the actual data, we don't have anything. We don't know what's going on. We don't have any information other than it's passed. And as soon as they put it on the FCC website, I believe they have 60 days before it becomes effective. of course, we're going to see that litigation, lawsuits, etc., come in, and people trying to get stays for that as well. But until we see it, we won't know. And a lot of people, as Commissioner Pai had said previously on the show, it could take every bit of a month before we see that editorial process get done and then get released to the FCC website. However, on a good note, we are going to be talking about the WISP America show today and all about the success stories and success information that we had from it. I heard from first-time show attendees, I heard from show sponsors, show vendors, and even longtime WISPA members who have attended every show ever put on. Simply put, everyone said the food was great, the show agenda was great, the content was great, the vendors said the response from the attendees was phenomenal. There were a few standouts to me, and I don't wish to say anybody in particular, but the CTI Exceed program that we had on a few weeks ago was a big hit. Lots of traffic in their booth. Tower One had lots of great gear in their booth to show off for tower climbers. Something we normally don't see is a lot of gear for tower climbing, etc. The local WISP, or one of the local WISPs, WISPer ISP, had at least, I think it was 40 attendees between each of the days of the show there. So they had a lot of people there. And something that we did not see in other shows is a great number of LTE gear vendors. As recently announced, Link Technologies, Inc., one of our show Platinum sponsors, did announce that we will be carrying the Telerad LTE gear in North America as well. Mimosa Networks announced a new light version of their B5 backhaul, going after the ultra-high performance, low-cost dedicated backhaul radio market. Recently, Mimosa also announced that Congress has written a letter of support for the Mimosa 10 GHz petition, asking the FCC to explore potential sharing opportunities within the 10 GHz band. With that, that's basically the big news, the big information. Obviously, Title II has been passed. We don't know anything about it, but it's been passed. Commissioner O'Reilly's speech was excellent. Some of the keynotes that we had, again, excellent as well. And most of the sessions, or at least the sessions that I attended, everybody very much approved of the content and very much enjoyed learning about the topics that was handled. For those of you that have not or did not attend a WISPA conference or the WISP America last week, I can tell you right now, go to WISPA.org, sign up and become a member of WISPA. Then, next time, the next show, which is going to be in October in Vegas at the Rio, you'll be able to get your tickets at a discounted rate and be able to go to a absolutely phenomenal show. So, again, kudos to all the people that helped put that show on. With that, back to you, Steve.
Well, it sounds like it was an outstanding show, and like you said, hands out to the leadership of WISPA for putting together a dynamite show. How many people was it guessed were there, Dennis?
I believe it was over 600 attendees. So I don't believe, I don't remember if that includes the vendors or not. I'm sure Alex can tell us. But it was the largest WISP America show attendee turnout that WISPA has ever had. And I, again, do not remember the total, how far above it, but it was substantially above one of the other shows as well. So it was definitely one of the larger shows. And when we look at that in comparison, I believe WISP Palooza last year was about 1,200 attendees, a little over that. So this show's about half the size. It is a traveling show, but we did see a lot of really new faces, a lot of people that was there, a lot of new attendees that has never even attended a trade show like this. So definitely think some of the Title II stuff is kind of bringing in a lot of the industries, specifically the WISP industry, kind of bringing them together because it is a big deal. It is lots of information that still hasn't disseminated down yet, but lots and lots of attendees and lots of people looking to get into that industry or in the industry that needs a little more help and needs to understand the Title II information.
Right. One of the questions I had to ask you is part of the reason we didn't have a show last week is you were doing a bunch of trainings yourself. Were all the trainings that you put on, were they pretty well received and well attended?
I think they were. I was actually doing, these weren't actually trainings, these were actually part of the show agenda. We had quite a few topics. I did I think I did 6 total sessions. So of those sessions, we did some RF planning techniques. We did some routing 1, routing 2, and things like that. So there's quite a few different topics that occurred there. You can actually go to WISP's website. I believe the link is still up there. You can see the agenda. There is tons of great information that was disseminated. And I'm really looking forward to the next show because of that. That's the whole idea of these shows. You come there to learn. You actually get 2 different opinions, you get 2 different points of view. You get these point of views that you go in and you talk to the people giving the presentations. And these are just volunteers that are volunteering for the agenda. So they're in your industry, and they give a presentation about a topic, and then they answer any questions that you may have. And that's usually really good. But the other portion of this, we have the meet and greets in the evenings typically. This year's meet and greet, especially the opening meet and greet, was phenomenal. The St. Louis Union Station Hotel, it was in the lobby area. Imagine, 500-600 people all in this huge area, big bar, drinks, food, and then, this thing's like 6 stories tall, big old, I guess cathedral type ceiling, big round ceiling, and then they have 14 high-def projectors giving you a light show up on top of this thing, and it's a beautiful thing. Probably one of the best, and actually many attendees and vendors told me this, one of the best venues we have ever had at a WISP America. So very, very good. If you missed it, but you get there and you talk to all these people, and during these meet and greets you talk to other people in similar situations, and then you find out new things. You find out, hey, these guys are forming a coalition to buy license frequencies, and these guys have put in bandwidth with multiple 10 gig providers at XYZ location, and they're trying to resell that at basically their cost to you so that you can get bandwidth out to your subscribers. Lots and lots of great little projects like that is going on, and really should be looked at, because all these projects can help wireless ISPs and WISP operators as well, and even non-WISPs. I mean, the bandwidth and the bandwidth exchange projects, things like that, all really, really good stuff.
Yeah. So, Alex, are you there?
Yes, I am.
What was your take on the show?
Well, I'll just echo what Dennis said as far as the attendance. It was the largest attended WISP America show we've had so far. And what I got from a lot of the vendors is they had a lot more traffic than they've had, even at heavily. They had more traffic at this show than they've had at other shows that had even more attendance. And I think that was a good sign that folks were spending more time in the exhibit hall and getting to know the vendors. But we try to create an environment that definitely supports our vendor members who attend the show and carry the load for a lot of the expenses. But also, we want to make sure that we also have good information for the attendees. And the WISP America show has traditionally been more of a technical training type show. You could see that in our agenda. We had a lot more training and technical sessions. The WISPalooza show, we focus a little bit more on regulatory matters, introductions of new products. A lot of times happen at that show, press releases and things like that for new things that vendors want to announce to a larger group. But overall, I thought the venue was great. I look forward to us, someday returning to that Union Station Hotel for another show. I think that St. Louis was a great venue in general, great location. There's a lot of folks could drive to that hotel, drive to that city. I think that it was nice to have Nathan Stuke also there, as well as LinkTex as a couple of host members that were there, taking care of us, making sure we all knew where to go, what to do, different things. There are probably some other St. Louis companies there that did the same thing.
What did you think of the commissioner's speech?
Well, he's a very good speaker, and I enjoyed listening to him talk. He seems to have a lot of confidence in what he has to say. He did not go as far as Commissioner Pai on some of his statements regarding net neutrality, but he did echo his concerns that were the same as Commissioner Pai. I appreciated him talking to us. I think that it says a lot about our industry as well as our organization that we're starting to get that type of keynote speaker at our show to talk to our membership.
Absolutely.
I appreciated some conversations that I had after his keynote. We had dinner with the commissioner and we talked more on personal things. We didn't talk about business too much, but basically he did say, kind of echo a lot of what he said in his speech. And I feel very confident that when they raise the red flag that there's probably going to be something to be concerned about. We really didn't get a whole lot of information from the chairman's and the commission's vote. Basically, we heard a lot of the same things from both Commissioner O'Reilly and Commissioner Pai, and also Rosenwelser and Clyburn. We didn't hear anything new.
Yeah, we're still in that holding pattern, and it really stinks to sit here and say we're in a holding pattern. But no matter what we've done and all the actions, the reports, etc., they know we're here. That's a really important thing. So it's not like we didn't accomplish anything. We accomplished a lot. Just having the commissioners coming to our shows now shows how much the FCC knows that, hey, we're out here. So that's really good. But until they publish this stuff, man, we're just kind of sitting waiting. And
a lot of people have asked about whether or not this is going to be good or bad for our industry, and there's tons of comical fodder out there for people to make jokes about what's going to happen. The government taking over the internet. You basically said a lot of the funny stuff, and there's tons of funny stuff out there, and a lot of conspiracy theory stuff out there, and we won't really know until they finish the edits and actually publish the real deal. Now, and I said that there was nothing new announced when the commission voted on this. Actually, there was something that popped up that was kind of new, and basically over the past several months, WISPA and the American Cable Association, which also represents small cable companies, have been pushing for a small business exemption. And I think that when we met with the commissioner's office and met with the chairman's staff the last time, which was like about a month ago, and talked with them about the small business side of it, I spent a long time going on a rant about how all this got started with companies like Verizon, AT&T, and Comcast, who all have market power to force content providers to capitulate to their will, because they have the money, they have the largest customer bases, they have the ability, and so they're sort of like the bad players in this game. And then you look at the WISP industry and the small cable industry. We're all small players, and we don't have any way to do any of these things, and we have not been doing any of these things. And I further explained to the staff at the FCC that, in my case, I don't know about anybody else, but in my case, services like Netflix and YouTube and Amazon and others that are new, that are coming up, that are just starting out in the industry, make my customers or people in my area want my service. And so I have no reason to not be able to support that. I do everything I possibly can to make sure that they can get it. I don't oversell. We always say no high definition, obviously. We say standard definition. So we tell them what speed packages support these, and we make sure that we can provide those services to those customers when they want to watch it. Yes, it's getting more intense. Bandwidth usage is going up. It's not going down. I told the commission, the chairman's staff, yes, I wish we could have $1 or $2 per customer from Netflix on this to help offset the costs. But we just don't have the ability to do that. And so we do the best we can. And so in closing with the staff, I said, so you've got, on the one hand, the large companies who are the bad players in this industry doing these things that the government is trying to protect the consumer from, who have the wherewithal to deal with and manage new regulatory requirements that they're going to impose in Title II. And then you've got companies like mine and small businesses who are not at fault for any of this, did not cause any of this to start, are not doing anything to our consumers to prevent them from doing anything, and are the least able to handle these new regulatory requirements and are going to have the most impact on us. And I said small business needs to be exempt. And that was the first time that the staff actually started writing something down. And they asked us, well, what is a small business? And I think Steve mentioned, some of the financial definitions that the SBA has, and then we threw out a number of 100,000 subscribers, I think. And here we are now with a potential temporary exemption, which may become a permanent exemption for small businesses in Title II, which I think will be really good if we can get that to stick.
In reality, my question to you, Alex, since you're the committee chair for the FCC, this is all just a big straw man by the federal government put out there. When I was in college, I took philosophy, and there was a concept called straw man, where you put up a big, bad, ugly thing, and then you try to create panic about it, and then government wants to regulate it. It's just a huge straw man to regulate bits and bytes. Would you kind of agree with that?
Well, if you look at the rhetoric that started a lot of this, fear was the common element in all of this. The consumer fears being taken advantage of by big cable, big ISPs, and then the content providers who are, I guess, either large or small, have expressed the fear that these big companies are going to muscle them out so that their content will be favorable and anything else will be less favorable. In the cable industry, it was the big Netflix. In the cell phone industry, with data, it's, we won't charge you for data used on this particular app because it's within our network and we control it and we make all the money in lieu of using something else. So, all these things are, if you take net neutrality and the, the rainbows and the flowers out of the internet, it's business. Nobody else would have the government intervene in these situations when there's competition. Now, when you've got companies that provide, they're the only water, they're the only electricity, or they have a monopoly, government regulation is probably warranted. But, all of my customers have some alternative. They may be more desirable, they may be less desirable. They may have a better product offering than I do, or they may have a worse product offering, but they all have an option.
Yep.
No one in my network is held hostage. And so, only way I can keep my customers is providing a service that they're happy with and that they're comfortable paying for at that price. And that's how free enterprise works. That's how capitalism works. So, the big scary things that we have to worry about today when it comes to Title II are the things we don't know. And right now, the Commission is going through their edit process. And that's a interesting term because they could change a word, which could change the entire meaning of a sentence or a paragraph in favor of or against our industry. We don't know because they're in edits and we don't know. And all the things that Commissioner Pai said regarding, the Internet's going to have control over, the macro and the micro levels of our industry and telling us what we can do and backdoor surprise control. I have to trust the fact that there's probably something in there that has the potential to do all of that, but we don't know until we see it. Now, if there's a great deal of information in the actual document that is going to negatively impact small ISP businesses, cable businesses, I'm sure that all of this is going to be tested in court. I'm almost 100% positive that large industry is going to test this in court. So none of this has passed that test. So we still have all that to deal with, going forward.
Well, I've got a question circling back to the WISP America show, and this is a question for both of you guys since both of you are there, and you guys have been to multiple WISP Americas and WISPaloozas. Do you think that the outstanding attendance could be due to the industry circling its wagons and, having to fend off this Title II thing? I wonder what the growth in our industry of people, ISPs joining WISPA, I wonder if there's been a spike since this Title II's come down. Could either you guys answer that, or both you guys?
Well, there was a lot of reasons why people came to this show. I mean, there was the time of the year. It was ridiculously cold, so construction season was not in full bore. A lot of people had the actual time to come. There was a lot of new vendors. Telrad and Mimosa were there. We had some new other LTE vendors, other bandwidth management vendors, people that were brand new. We had some good training. So there was a lot of things that people could learn about that they didn't know about. It seems like over-the-top TV or TV applications seem to be a pretty good draw all the time. And I do think that people were coming to the show looking for some answers on net neutrality, and I wish we could have given more. We just basically have to work with what we have. So I think there were a lot of factors that went into this show being more popular. I mean, every year it seems that we have more attendance at our shows, and the shows get better every year. I think we take really good care of the attendees. I'm not going to say that everybody's happy all the time, and we can't guarantee that we'll meet everybody's needs, but we do the best we can. And the thing about the show, which is different than if you look back at ISPCon or the other shows from the past ISP industries, they were run by media companies. In fact, a lot of shows today that aren't WISPA shows are run by media companies. Whereas you look at the agenda committee and you look at the folks who are on the board, we are all in the trenches. We all know the industry. We're not just here to try to see what we can put out there and see what sticks or what kind of fish we can catch with this bait. We're out there, thinking about our business and what does our business need to know more about? What do other people like us need to know more about? And so that, I think, is at the core of why WISPA is a successful industry organization and why our shows keep getting better and better and more attended every year.
Dennis, any insight into that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the show, obviously, the shows always get better. And, something that, as Alex had mentioned, one of the things that you get is this is a show put on by a group that is in industry. And the people who are putting it on are not marketing people. These are, like the WISPA board members, Trina, all these people are in the industry. They either own companies that do or help WISPs or are WISPs. So whenever we see this is that we are not a marketing guru. Okay, these people are not. So what happens is that we're putting together shows that are much more focused on the industry. And because of that, we get great content. We get great reviews. We get great vendors. And that is a difference. And as we continue on, every time we have a show, of course, the board and everybody else, we sit there and talk, what can we do better? What can we do that was really good? What was okay? What can we do to ensure that we have better and better shows? So it's a continual improvement process, as always. Going back to something that Alex had mentioned with the Title II in Comcast, there was actually a really good article that I was kind of reading it. When we really look at this, when we look at Title II, really what I see a lot of people saying is, well, we want to prevent exactly what happened with Comcast and Netflix, where Comcast has enough market share that Comcast can go to a content provider and say, for you to give us good service, we need you to pay us to transit your traffic. So in this particular case, they get paid twice for every bit. They get paid by Netflix and they get paid by their customer. And to me, that's wrong. But that is the real reality, and that is probably one of the biggest problems that people have. They want net neutrality because that's exactly what they don't want to have. They want all the bits to be traded equal, and in that particular instance, what I feel FCC, Congress, whoever the government should have done is they should have taken the sniper view. They should have used the sniper and snipped out that particular issue and said, hey, this is anti-competitive, you can't do it, and here's how long you have to correct the situation, whatever the case is. But instead, what we have is the FCC trying to exert the authority that they may or may not have. Only time will tell in the legal arena and litigation. And what's going to end up happening is now we have stifled innovation, and the FCC, in order to get the authority, has to classify us as Title II operators, utilities, and all of a sudden now there's a big, huge book of, or a can of worms per se, that now has to occur. We don't know what's going to happen. But instead of the FCC using the sniper approach, and I'm just going to use this as an example, basically what they did is they just dropped about 4 nukes on the industry to try to fix one problem.
Yes.
And that's really that's my view. Obviously, your view may differ, but we also see a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of people think, Title II is all about net neutrality. Not really. Can it be used for that? Yes, but there's so much more that goes with it. It's just like anything else. The other issue that I see is that for such a broad scope of what can happen and what they can control, you would think that something like that would have to go through committees, that would have to go through public processes. When we look at Congress, etc., they put out their, the laws and stuff, people review them, all this is made public, all the information is public. And in this case, really what we have is we have 5 commissioners with their legal aides or their aides, etc., making the rules with no supervision, no arbitrary, no oversight committee for all practical purposes. Even though they do have people they report to, the end result is they can create it all, and then someone has to come back and say, oh, no, you can't, or no, you didn't do that, or etc. So the way that this is presented is basically 5 people created the rules, and in all reality, 1 or 2 people created the rules because it really kind of came down to the people from what was it? From Commissioner Wheeler's office, probably, and I'm sure there was other people involved, but there was very little. There was very little committee process and public information in the whole thing. It was all wrapped up nice and tight, hidden away from view to really say anything. Nobody knew anything. So it's, hey, we're going to enact these rules. We created them. We're going to vote them in. You don't really have a say-so. You can put your comments in, but that's all they are. It's just comments. We're not even going to let you see what the rules are. So all you can do is assume what's in them. And here we are. I think in the end we're going to see that litigation, and it'll be probably overturned. Something will happen, and of course Congress is already working. But until President Obama gets out of office, he's probably going to veto anything because he was one of the forerunners that wanted it. So it is a catch-22, but we are in it. We don't have any information. So what I tell my consulting clients that call me up, say, hey, should I be worried, etc. Yes, you should be worried. Should you stop normal business operations at this point in time? Should you change it? No, because we don't have any information. We have nothing. All you need to know is really 2 things. For those, I kind of forgot this in the notes this morning, but March 1st, or actually March 2nd, was the Form 477 deadline. That was Monday. So we need to make sure everybody's filing that. Other than that, do business as usual. There's no point in making a whole bunch of assumptions until we actually get some hard data. As soon as we get the hard data, yeah, then go for it. But I know a lot of people have really put off a lot of plans, and we're going to see a lot of stifled innovation as well because of that.
Well, I think that one thing that everybody should kind of look at this is, this isn't the first challenge that any WISP has had to contend with. So don't feel like, you've come all this way and all of a sudden the rug's been pulled from underneath you. This is just a challenge. And so things that you can do now to get prepared is to, number one, talk to your state regulatory agencies to see, how this is going to affect you. You becoming Title II means what some people think it's going to mean, some state taxes. So that's one thing. The other thing that it could mean or will mean is that, we'll have access to pole attachments. So, that's a good thing. I think we've all been wanting that. So how's that going to affect your business? But then if costs go up as a result of Title II, unfortunately, the only thing you can do is pass that cost along to the customer. So remember that if your costs go up a nickel or a dime or 25 cents or $1 per subscriber, make it a regulatory fee. I mean, if a customer complains about it, it's not you, it's the government. So they can't be too mad at you. And the way I look at it, the public asked for this, so they're going to get exactly what they're going to ask for.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm going to toss us back to another thing when we were talking about net neutrality. In net neutrality in its pure form, again, this goes back to, hey, I want all my bits treated equally. There are a number of ISPs, and I'm not saying just a couple, I mean a lot, many, that have products. I'm just going to use Procera because I know them off the top of the head, but there's other products like Packeteer, etc. There are plenty of products out there that is designed to give the customer a better experience by taking really what we would call interactive traffic, in other words, traffic such as VoIP, Skype, etc., and prioritize it to make sure that's nice and quick for you, while things that are not time sensitive, in other words, like a download, if it went an extra 2 minutes, it's not a big deal as long as it's not at the expense, or as long as that slowness is at the expense of the other type of traffic that you're trying to move. And the whole idea of that is to bring that traffic up in the priority, therefore giving a customer a better experience. In pure net neutrality rules, really, that is not correct. You cannot do that. Okay? In other words, if you get a customer that calls you up, and this is, it's horrible to say this, but if you get a customer calls you up and says, hey, my internet's slow, and you go, okay, well, I can look at your traffic and I see that you have a whole bunch of connections open, most likely BitTorrent. Well, why is my internet slow? Well, because you're using up all your bandwidth for BitTorrent. Well, no, that ain't right. My web pages should be first. Well, we can't change that. You would have to change it. You need to buy a product, not us. So all of a sudden we're going to start seeing that, prioritizing VoIP across your back calls. Anytime you get anything that is overloaded, we can't sit there and just adjust it to where we can, where it's usable until such time. Eventually we'll just have to upgrade everything, So again, stifle innovation. It is kind of a good thing, but I don't think the original problem was never with the small WISPs. It was only with what I would consider anti-competitive practices with large companies that have that market share. Well, as Alex termed it, market power. Isn't that the right term, Alex?
Yeah, that's correct.
Those are the one. That's really where the issue came in, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, well, we can use this in the political rigmarole to, hey, let's take an action item and let's move it into this whole nother level. Just this, like I said, the difference between the sniper taking out the target versus nuclear warheads going off. That's basically what's happened. So it is what it is. We'll see how it all works out. We do hope to have someone on the show whenever we get the information released. And hopefully we can get somebody that can go through all that and kind of get some summarizations. If you're not a WISPA member, I know WISPA is planning on getting a lot of that information to its members. So join WISPA so that you can get that information when it comes out.
Oh, believe me, this is a hot topic for ISPs, be it WISP or fiber or coax, whatever. Just
yeah,
like
it don't matter.
Intro says, we're going to be talking about this at length, I'm sure, for quite a while until this will probably be going on as long as the lawsuits do.
Yeah.
The next opportunity for WISPA members to participate at an event that this will obviously be talked about is the policy summit that we are working on for May. All the details are not been worked out, but basically we're going to have a policy summit in conjunction with our Advocacy Day event in D.C., where the first part of that show will be to go talk to our representatives and also to go to meet with folks at the FCC. Should be around May 11th and 12th time frame. And then we'll follow that with a full-blown mini show, I guess you could call it, where we'll have sessions on things to teach you how to go talk to your senators and congressmen and local politicians, and, how to be a lobbyist essentially for WISPA and for your company. We'll also have some keynotes. We don't know who, but hopefully, since we'll be there in the district, that folks that normally won't travel because they don't have a travel budget will be able to come and talk to us. But we'll start making more announcements on the WISPA list about that, and we'd like to get a lot of folks to participate in both aspects of that event, both in going to Congress, going to the Hill, as well as participating in some of the training sessions.
And that's one thing I have to thank you and Dennis, being directors of WISPA. You guys put together these shows. You put together the meet and greet in Washington and the summit you're talking about. And you guys run your own networks. Dennis, you run a consulting company. But, I mean, I have to hand it to you. Where you guys find the extra time to do this is beyond me, but you guys are out there busting it. And I for one, appreciate it. And I think the majority of the membership appreciates it for just like what Dennis said. The show is put on by people that are out in the field climbing towers, installing customer radios, and building stuff. I hand it to you guys, and thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the board the board is definitely a great board. It's probably one of the best boards that we've had in a long time. I was a board member a number of years back, and it was not as effective as this one. This one is extremely effective. That actually brings me up to another great point. Actually, we got two more topics. One quick topic is that we do have WISPA nominations that's going to start up here in a month or two, pretty quickly actually. And if you're interested in volunteering, remember it's just a board position. There are a number of board positions available for that. It is, I believe, most of them are 2-year terms. So if you're interested, you can definitely get with me. But we'll be sending all that information out as well whenever it comes due. So that is coming up. The other topic that was kind of part of the FCC vote was also the municipal network stuff. And basically this is the preemption of state rules to allow municipal networks, this would be maybe like a citywide network or a countywide network or even a statewide network, to exist and to compete in the market. Thoughts, comments, suggestions, all that kind of good stuff. I mean, that it doesn't sound like it's a big thing, but there was actually a WISPA member at the show that literally said a city had built out a small municipal network with fiber and had overbuilt a significant portion of his area that he was already providing service in, and used state money and county money to do so, and he literally lost, he said, over 250 subs. Now, for many big ISPs, that's a handful, but a lot of WISPA members, that's a good chunk, good chunk of business. So, 250 subs is quite a few customers, and that was the thought: where do we stand with that? What do you guys think about the wonderful municipal network stuff that the FCC is trying to do?
Go ahead, Alex.
Well, the preemption that they're doing, they're saying, I think under Section 706, they have the authority because it has to do with promoting the deployment of broadband services quicker. The states, on the other hand, they have their reasons for their different ordinances and code sections that prohibit this. I don't know too much about the one location that was brought up for this particular preemption. I know in the state of Virginia that the State Corporation Commission has rules that prevent municipalities from competing with small business or competing with business, and they can't provide services for less than the going market rate, so they can't, basically use taxpayer money to sell to businesses at a lower rate than the incumbents. And so I'm actually going to be involved in a case regarding that relatively soon, where a county built out a network using a stimulus grant, and they were supposed to do it in a way that provided access into unserved areas via fiber with lots of nodes to, for providers to connect into and provide services. And they didn't have the money to do. They grossly underestimated so many things, and so they ended up contracting with a company that is a Sprint licensee. So they ended up building a network using microwave technology to connect all of that company's cell towers, which were all hubbed in areas that had ample internet services, that had anywhere from 2 to 3 broadband providers, my company being one of those. So they have been trying to sell their wares for the past several years, and they're priced out of the market because they're trying to offer served areas prices that only unserved areas would be able to afford, because there's no option. And so they just went through a vote with their broadband authority to lower their rates, now well below my rates and other competitors in their area. And so I have to go now to the State Corporation Commission and actually take this to the state court to address this, because they're so outdated, their code sections, that they only interpret incumbent as being a phone company. So Comcast and myself aren't even on their radar when it comes to that definition. And so we have to come to terms with that. And so that kind of situation is totally untenable. It should never happen. You should never have government-funded organizations, operations, things like this, competing directly with businesses that have invested their own money. Even the phone company, in this case, is being unfairly competed with, I believe, and their tariff rates are available to show that. But there's other providers in the state of Virginia that are having the same contention, where they receive either state money or federal government money for their networks, and now they're being encroached upon heavily. I think Clay Stewart in Nelson County is having the same issue. And I had a discussion with the contractor consultant that initiated that project with them, and I gave him my business card and told him that I was with WISPA and that this situation is unacceptable, and that I've stayed out up to this point, but if it doesn't get resolved soon, I'm going to have to get involved. And I'll have to go to the governor as well, because I had meetings with the governor last summer. All the ISPs did. And the governor in the state of Virginia asked all of us to do what we can to get broadband in every corner of the state, and to have a state agency fund the encroachment of a WISP using federal tax money, using state tax money to overbuild and put them out of business is it's just not right. And what the FCC did here, again, is still going to be tested in court. I don't know if the state that they are going to preempt is going to deal with this, or if the neighboring WISPs or operators are going to deal with this. But somebody's going to deal with it, and it's going to be tested. It's just it's a classic example of overreach from the federal government into state law and state matters. And it's also just flat out wrong because there should not be tax money, U.S. tax money, whether they're state taxes or federal tax money, used to compete unfairly against an operator, regardless of what the situation is. I mean, if it was an unserved territory, perhaps, but it's just there's too much of this. People use anchor tenants as part of their business model, and those anchor tenants are usually in served areas. But they use to justify grants to build into unserved areas, and so they're taking business away from from companies that built their own networks, and that's just not right. And so all this is going to have to be tested, and we should all do our part to fight it. If a WISP out there is starting to feel this encroachment, you need to do something about it, and you can't do it alone. Because if you try to fight this all by yourself, going to your government, local government agencies, or going to the state without the proper tools, and when I say tools, that's somebody that understands laws and represents a law firm that has the respect that these states, governments or county governments understand, then you're just spinning your wheels. Because I tried to fight this one county early on, and I was getting nowhere because it was usually my word versus the county attorney's word, and they're paying him. He has titles, and I'm just a loudmouth. And so I got an attorney involved. I got somebody who had the knowledge, who knew what buttons to push, what words to say, what things to threaten in a sense. And yes, it cost me a great deal of money, and I probably would have liked to use that money to build my networks out. But I feel like figuratively, I cocked back and gave them a bloody nose. And that's what you do with a bully. You've got to give them something to remember. And so anybody that's listening to this show right now that's having this problem, you need to do something decisive. You need to be involved, and you need to get the proper help. And that may mean hiring an attorney, either one of the D.C. attorneys or someone in your area that understands state law, federal law, telecommunications, these types of things. And you need to do it. Otherwise, you're just going to get walked all over.
One of my experiences out here is it's interesting, we're forced to provide this 477 information, and that's presumably to prevent the federal government from coming in and spending money where there's already services, and I got stepped all over, but shame on me for not filling out the 477 before it was mandatory, so I deserve that. But in regards to municipal networks, before any of this came around, one of the counties that I serve in, they put together a broadband network, if you will, that was supposed to provide, cactus and dirt internet. And so they spent $2 million from some outside consultant outside the area that doesn't know much about running an ISP. The guy's claim was he set up a Wi-Fi network for some prince in some South Pacific island, so that made him the de facto standard for wireless, when there were other people in the city that could build this if that's what they wanted, but they chose to go elsewhere, and it was just a colossal waste of money. And one of the things that I want to just throw out there is that you have to remember this is government running something, and they're not used to 24/7. They're 9 to 5, 40-hour-a-week people, or with overtime, but it's not they don't understand the 24/7, 365 that this has got to be up. They may understand it with water, but people could be without water for a little bit of time, but we're dealing with government here, and as we see with the regulations going on and coming down the pike our way, they, and just like Dennis said earlier, they put out this healthcare act and put up a website. Now they're expected to manage the nation's infrastructure for broadband. It's kind of silly. So in a silver lining, any municipal run ISP is doomed to fail regardless because of how government runs, in all honesty, from my viewpoint.
Yeah, it's a mess. And we had that here where the local I had spoke to this before, but the local 911 facilities was entertaining a number of offers to get on their towers, and we ended up hopefully, as far as I know, got that. But there was another group that was trying to get government money to provide free internet to the county, free internet for trainings and for online access and stuff like that. And they wanted $50,000 just to start. So they didn't. They had no idea how it would propagate through trees. They had no idea if it would not. And we're like, we've done all this. Why are you doing it again? We already provide the service, and then the discussion that we tried to shift was, instead of you guys trying to build a network that you guys don't understand, why don't you give us the funding. Use that $50,000 or that $100,000 that you're going to try to build out. You know what I'm saying? Instead of building out all this, why don't you use that money to put towards monthly service to offer reduced or lower cost service, so that basically we can go, hey, you're going to be a subsidized customer, we can get that funding, and now all that money actually goes into the customer who has a true need for it, versus building a network for that's already built. So,
well, Alex and Dennis, I want to say one thing. A prophet is never appreciated in his own town. So, we can be the professionals and know how to push packets, but the pinheads in government choose to get people that are from other places to do this stuff. Alex, you mentioned in the chat you have one more thing that's
I just wanted to
more comical, and go ahead and lighten the conversation.
Well, you asked about the show and why we had a little bit more, and I mentioned a few probably more logical things, but there was one thing about the show that probably had an effect on people attending, and that was the fact that one of the founding board members, John Scrivener's birthday was during that week, and his band was playing at the Mimosa party across the street from the hotel, and John was back there playing his drums, and then afterwards he hung out and socialized with a lot of the attendees. And I know I was pretty excited to see John. I thought many years ago we weren't going to see him at events anymore because he got out of the business, but he still seems to be sticking around like a bad penny, so to speak. But it was great to see John, and I enjoyed his band. I enjoyed seeing him play the drums. I'd never seen him play before, and it was a real honor to have that opportunity, and hopefully we'll keep seeing him in the future.
That brings up one question about the show. Is you guys both mentioned that statements from the vendors was more traffic. How do you think they really gauge that success, like with the number of cards handed out or brochures handed out? How do you think the vendors gauge something like that this was a great show and it was better than Wispalooza for foot traffic in the conference area?
I think it has to do with new leads.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis had a booth there as well, but that's the first thing I ask a vendor. I said, did you get any new leads? Because if your existing customer came by and said, hey, I walked away with some swag, well, that was nice, but it didn't really do anything for you. So the new leads, I think, is what was important. So we've been getting a lot more new members, and so when we get these new members to come to the show and meet our vendors, that's what I think makes it for them. Because if you're not getting any new business from the shows and having these face-to-face conversations with the attendees, then it's not really worth your time to come. I mean, it's fun, to see my friends that work at the various companies that I do business with, and I enjoy hanging out with them, and I do business with them, whether I see them at the show or not. But for a company that's kind of brand new, and I had a lot of new WISPs that called me directly because they call the WISPA number and they want to talk about regulations, so they hit the FCC button, and they asked me a load of questions about what kind of licensing do I need to get, to be a WISP, and I tell them what I can, but I always recommend they come to the show because then they start asking me about vendors and products, and the best thing to do is to come and talk to WISPs who have used those products, talk to the vendors and distributors who sell those products and get the real information. And so, a lot of new people came. There's a lot of first-timers, and I think that's what really makes it work. And
right.
It's not only just the first-time WISP or the first-time show attendee, but, it might be that, a WISPA member who has been, I don't know, buying everything they could get as cheap as possible on eBay or wherever, has come out and actually decided to talk to one of the distributors. And I always recommend that WISP operators not focus so much on the lowest unit cost. That establishing a relationship with a vendor and a distributor is a long-term investment that will pay off much better than saving a dollar here and there per unit on costs and things that you buy to make your business run. So I think that the first timers, were good, and then making new leads on existing members that have been in the business for a while, learning about services and products and stuff that different companies offer that they didn't know about makes a big difference too.
Yeah. Well, I think that that is it for the show. I hope that you've all gleaned quite a bit of good information about what I missed at WISP America. It sounds like from Dennis and Alex, it was an outstanding show. I am so pleased to hear that we had the attendance there, and a lot of people gleaned a lot of good information. I'm glad that the vendors were able to meet a whole lot of new people and visit with them. It's always beneficial. I come away from those WISPA shows charged and ready to go, and maybe next year I'll hit the WISP America because it is a recharge of batteries. Dennis, you got anything else?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything. I mean, great show, and like I said, props to everybody who made the show work. The show staff, the WISPA board, etc., all made the show work, and we wanted to thank everybody that made that show what it was.
Right. Well, I want to thank everyone who makes this show what it is. Dennis, thank you for producing the show and hosting it with me. And Alex, I appreciate you being on the show today, just kind of impromptu, but you added a lot of value to what went on at WISP American. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that both you guys are directors on the WISPA board, and you guys are in the trenches. And like I said, I don't see how you guys can do that and run your own operation at the same time, but where there's a will, there's a WISP. Well, with that, I'm going to wrap up the show. Thank you, guys, and go out there and kick some butt, guys. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you for listening to ISP Radio. We hope you've gained new insights and additional wisdom in our industry as well as your business. Please remember to visit our show sponsors via the links on ispradio.com. If you're interested in becoming a show sponsor, contact us at sales@ispradio.com. Now go out there and push those packets as fast as you can. Good luck and Godspeed.